members. RIPE are big enough to punch some weight.
Yeah.
And if we're RIPE members, surely RIPE at some stage should be beholden to the interests of its members. And if those interests are only showed up by the side that want carrier grade NAT, then that's what will happen. If those that don't want it,
yeah.
Bradley Freeman, private citizen, end user hat. I think using carrier grade NAT more and more with IPv4 will just encourage and put off real IPv6 adoption, and it might be a better solution to allow everyone to have their own IPv6 address native and then use some tunneling methods toward IPv4, and if they do need a dedicated IPv4 address for things like P2P, then they can pay to dual stack.
I made a small omission, but in fact Cisco is one of the vendors who is actually promoting carrier grade NAT, and I can only guess why they are actually promoting this. Probably because they want to sell it, and it's much easier to sell a new box than actually tell people to just flip the switch and turn on IPv6 on their Cisco's, just buy a new one. But Cisco actually now states that whatever carrier grade NAT you are deploying, you have to also make sure that you deploy IPv6 natively to maintain the end-to-end connectivity principle of the internet. So there's some light at the end of the tunnel, but whether or not people will listen to it, that's something completely different.
Cheers, I love that.
I think we all need IPv6. And the financial guys have the solution to the problem. The SWIFT network has also protocol changes.
Yeah.
And they say, well, if you want to stick to the old version, you have to pay extra. So every bank that has to pay extra, they are suddenly in a hurry to switch to the new protocol.
Money is the thing, but
yeah.
As I tested, there's only like 25% of the people who actually want to pay for a real address here in the room. In this room, yeah.
Yes, but I think you have to ask at corporate level, because they are the guys who are steering this into one direction and not at the consumer level.
Yeah, on one side you're right. If a big corporation involves a lot of money, but think about what happens if like a million end users in your network vote with their feet and go to your opponent or your competitor. There's also a lot of money involved. The consumer market is big enough, but the only thing is the consumer market needs to be aware of this problem, and currently they aren't. Basically, the regular Joe average internet user isn't aware that the internet is getting full. They don't know what's coming. And one of the reasons we're up here and one of the reasons that we're trying to get into the newspapers is to actually make people aware of this problem and make people aware that if you don't start phoning your operator, your telco, to ask for IPv6, they're not likely to roll out IPv6, and in the end you get stuck in this situation. I think that's the main thing.
Thank you very much.
My name is Andre, and I'm currently having the end-user hat on. And I think it's just the telcos who are the big carriers as well who are interested in carrier-grade NAT, right?
Yeah.
Who else should be interested? Okay, maybe also the vendors, but...
But as I can explain to that as being part of a big telco. Actually, we want to make extra money. We want to sell extra connections. And we've got basically the whole of the Netherlands has DSL now at home, or fiber, or at least broadband connectivity. But not everybody is carrying around an IP phone yet. But we are still pushing on mobile applications as well. You, as an end user, are taking up more and more IP addresses. And if I want to sell you, for instance, your second BlackBerry, I have to get an IP address to connect you to. And I think that's the main thing.
Well, now looking at the mobile operators, they are already doing the carrier NAT. I mean, they are handling, at least in Germany, most of them are doing it. All four of them, they're giving you RFC 1918 addresses.
It differs, but you get more and more real internet devices as a mobile, and also when you start doing push services from outside of the telco network, you really have to the device needs to have a publicly routable address.
I know how it works, but the reality is different. Then they're using some different access points and using some VPNs in the end and all that stuff again with private IP addresses.
But in the end, why are the telcos and the large guys pushing around carrier grade NAT? Is because they want to keep on selling stuff after April 2012, and the only way to do that is carrier grade NAT, apparently.
I'm Volkert, I'm an end user. I was thinking, wouldn't it be possible to use protocols like SOX and UPnP so that clients can register on a central server what outbound and inbound port numbers they need? So then it's just a matter of a large pool of real addresses. Yeah, for some stuff you can do that. For instance, for peer-to-peer and stuff it would work. But if you and your neighbor are both running a mail server and that both needs to open up port 25. Yeah. But for that, then you wouldn't have just one IP address for multiple persons, but a pool of real IP addresses for.
In the end, it's all. Not everybody's running a mail server, especially not if you're like in the end user market and you've got 1 million end users. So then you probably get away with it. But and for those guys who want to run services, I think, wearing my evil corporate hat, that I'm better off selling you a real IP address.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Frans, wearing a big telco hat. You told in your earlier talk also about legislation you were imposed to make addresses of customers public available to law enforcement. How do you think that will impact the do or don'ts of carrier grade NAT? Will it prevent it from being used?
Yeah, obviously it will be affected because as I flagged, like IP as an identity is gone. But on the other hand, I've got all those traffic nicely passing to one box. So I guess that in the end, legislation will follow. You know, in the end, it's a matter, and I'm also involved in discussions about legislation a bit. And yesterday, my colleague Scott was up, and he's really up into his neck into it. What actually happens in the Netherlands, but also in other countries, it's not much discussion whether or not stuff is useful. If they know you've got a box that's actually passing all that traffic and translating it, you're most likely are going to get the warrant because somebody will want that traffic, whether it can actually help them or not. You have the technology, they want access to it. That's the way it works. So if you start up carrier grade NAT, you're likely to face within like a year or 2 years, you're facing legislation to data retention, lawful interception on that box.
So it would just be an awful lot of questions coming from the police you have to process.
Yeah. Yeah, because the first time the police shows up, like, we want you, there's some fraud being done from this IP address. Can you tell us which user it is? Well, any of these 200. Then the next thing.
Just dispatch to an agent.
about an hour later, they will subpoena all your log files to actually find out who of the 200 it is. So, legislation will adopt. I think that's the main. That's the point here.
Yeah, I would like to address the question before the last one. Here it applies what you already actually said before. Pretty much, if you open 500 connections per user, suddenly you run out of ports. And this is outbound. What you said, inbound. If some whatever virus or software starts opening ports, suddenly you just run out of inbound ports.